Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much for joining us in this meeting, which is being held by Human and Humanitarian Rights for Yemen organization, which is an organization led by a team of Yemeni professionals focused completely on the humanitarian scenario that is going on in Yemen that has been happening for some time. The organization's message has basically been designed to be put out on this very occasion because it is now that time of year when it's Christmas, when everyone has got their presents all practically wrapped up and ready. We've got days to go to Christmas, and people are already designing their menus of incredibly pleasing items, from roast turkeys to all kinds of things. People are tucked in their cozy, quiet homes, happily awaiting this joyous day. We first want to wish everybody in humanity all over the world a very happy Christmas and New Year. But before you tuck into your cozy lives and happy presents and all of that, we want to bring you a picture of dire failure on the part of humanity in relation to one country in the world today. I'm sure a great deal of you have already heard about the terrible scar that it has left in the conscience of humanity, the famine of India, the famine of Ireland, the famine also of Africa in the 80s, where the whole world got together to alleviate the suffering of the people of Africa. And a brilliant job was done, and a lot of people got involved in it. However, here we have in Yemen 6 years of relentless human suffering of a kind unknown to humanity until now. And the memory of this will leave a very, very bad taste in the conscience of humanity for years and years and years to come. We had hoped that by holding this event, we are going to be able to awaken the conscience of all humanity to be aware of what's happening in Yemen and to stand up and do something and say enough is enough. We don't want millions of people being starved to death in our names. So greetings to you, and our first speaker today, who's going to give you a picture of what's happening in Yemen and the principal players in the worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe, is a wonderful lady, Sister Rhonda Lynn. She is a human rights activist campaigner. She's known for her brave stance in support of the people of Yemen. Rhonda is going to tell you about the role of the principal actors in the making of the worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe. Over to you, Sister Rhonda.
Thank you. I think for people in the West, such as myself, an American, I think the most important thing is that we educate ourselves and we understand, because most of the media and our politicians obviously do not tell us the truth. So most people do not understand that our tax dollars are being used to purposely prevent the people in Yemen from eating. We are blocking food from reaching these people. And it is our money, our labor dollars that do this. So every American, regardless of where you stand, anyone, all the British, no one should be accepting of that. And unfortunately, most people do not know. So I think it's extremely important to get that across. I know in the United States, people don't realize, even sometimes activists, Congress has the power to end this war today. They could end this war if they stop appropriating money for the Saudi coalition and the war. So it's not just Trump and it's not just Obama that are supporting this war. Congress supports this. So we have to push our representatives to end our support for this war. That's the main thing I want to get across, because I don't think people understand that. And many times, I think we make excuses for our politicians, and we can't do that, because every day some more children in Yemen are suffering. They are starving to death. If you haven't researched what that does to a human body, it's just mind-blowing to imagine doing that to someone. So it touches my heart. And I apologize for this, but it's a lot for me to bear, and I don't see it. So I can't imagine being in Yemen and dealing with this every day. Okay, so some of the things, again, Congress can end this, and that is so important. And I'm sure in the UK it is the same way. The Saudi Air Force could not operate without parts from the US and the UK. So by simply not supplying them with parts, we would ground their Air Force. So the bombing of people in Yemen probably within a week would end. So we have the power to end that. We have the power to end the famine that is occurring in Yemen if Congress would stop supporting the Saudi coalition. Those are the main points that I wanted to get across. I think anyone that has looked at the situation in Yemen understands, or at least to the extent that they can, the suffering of the people there. And I think the most important thing is just to stress that the US and UK government can stop this. And that pretty much is what I wanted to say. If anyone has any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Sister Rhonda. That is very moving, and we are very touched by your concern for your fellow humans. And we hope that a lot of other people in the West have the same heart, the same golden heart as you do, because if that happened, then this suffering wouldn't continue for 6 years and still going on as we're speaking right now. As I said, we very much appreciate your continued support and very much appreciate pointing out as it is bravely. Thank you so much. And we look forward to having you in events such as this one in the future. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, after our powerful, moving, emotionally very touching speech from our Sister Rhonda, we're now going to move on to speak about the humanitarian catastrophe in general, as it impacts on the people of Yemen as a whole. And our next speaker is Dr. Mohammed Al-Kadhimi. Dr. Mohammed is a conventional and renewable energy consultant, UK and Middle East. He's also a trustee of Human Rights for Yemen organization. He will tell us about the actual humanitarian situation in Yemen, and he's also going to give us a brief briefing about a global day of action planned for 25th January next year for the whole world to stand up and in solidarity with the people of Yemen to end this needless suffering. Over to you, Dr. Mohammed.
Right, okay. Hello, everybody, and nice speaking to you today. And I would try my best to have this very quickly wrapped up, because I think I've got about 12 pages of PowerPoint slides I want to share with you. And that is like a big number of, like, to show you facts actually and numbers of this tragedy that is occurring, is been occurring for the last 6 years in Yemen. So bear with me, you will not see my face that many times, but because I think you're fed up with it. So let me start with you for the presentation immediately. If you bear with me here, I'm going to share the presentation. Okay, I hope you are okay to see it. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, clear, clear.
Okay, that's great. Okay. As the title tells itself, is we usually say Assalamu alaikum everybody, and I'm saying peace be upon over everyone human on this planet. Welcome to Christmas message to humanity. This is what I'm trying to actually say. Let's go into the next 6 years of genocidal war on Yemen, on the Yemen and the public of Yemen, the infrastructure and the actual the population of Yemen itself. Like you can see, the bill of war and blockade increases dramatically every year. Currently, it's now currently entering into its 6 years, right? A child dies every 5 minutes, believe it or not. It is every 5 minutes there is a child is a victim of this blockade and the war. And there has been many reasons for why, which means this means to us there are 288 children per day, 288. It has never happened anywhere in the world, anywhere, not even in history, not even through the First World War and the Second World War. Not in any other war had happened that where 288 child can lose their life like this, the one thing that's happening in Yemen. Now, silently, there are land, air, and sea blockade. That is a reason why these people are killed. And there are, these blockades kills about 80,000 ill people. We're talking about the ill people now, not the children. There are usually ill people every place in the world. But those people everywhere in the world, they have the opportunity to be treated and to have their right to be looked after. That's why they build their hospitals and everything in there, right? And they have a simple access to the medical medicines and other things like that. Now, 450,000 ill people need to travel as well. To travel, why? Travel on urgent and complicated medical treatment. That means 25 to 30 of them dies every day while awaiting relief and opening the airport and sea and even the land traffic. So they can go out for these urgent and immediate surgeries, which they cannot do in Yemen, right? There are 80,000 people are suspended at foreign airports. Likewise, there are people who wants to go outside the Yemen to get treated. There are people are suspended and really trapped outside the Yemen in other countries' airports worldwide. They are counted about 80,000 people. They are looking to get back home. And I don't understand why, what guilt or what is, what is a humanity? Why would they not let these people come back home? They want to go and see their loved families, and they want to get back to see, to die at least in their own home, right? But they're not getting even the opportunity to die with harmony and respect among their own family. Now, 1 in 10 sick people also die due to car accident if they try to travel by land. That's the number of accidents. These, by the way, these figures are officials from the government of the Yemen Interior Minister. Now, there are 16 people desperately need to eat. As we are all about to enjoy Christmas and Happy New Year and having a party, although we are going through this COVID-19, lockdown, but we are still living. We can just pick up our keys in cars or even bikes or whatever and drop down to the supermarket and get the food that we want. But these people, there are 60 million people don't have anything to eat, right? There has been an incident where people really eat trees, eat cartoons, eat whatever they can see. Now, again, a number 25 million are living under the poorest line worldwide. According to the United Nations of Poverty worldwide, there are 25 million people are living under the poor level of the United Nations. So 5 million are suffering from poverty, but are still trying to survive. 18 million people do not receive their monthly salaries due to the blockade and moving central banks from the main city to where the attacked or attackers control. Why? So that they can get half of the Yemen population don't get any salaries or anything. How can they expect people who is dependent on their monthly wages to spend and live on? Now, withholding the country's only supply of oil and minerals for many months. That means the ships and the ship that they are withheld outside the the seaports, leading to delay in supplying hospitals with the required fuel and oxygens and any supplies to hospitals. This thing just on its own, only looking at the hospitals issue or the medical supply, this results in suffering of 12 million Yemenis children from acute malnutrition and causing a life of treatment health condition, threatening health condition. This is some of the some of the pictures that I was able to get. I don't know, there are thousands of them here. But what I'm saying in this message here is saying, what more? What more can you people, can these normal people who is watching this, what more do you need to get your heart thrifting to actually look and be human? You need to stand up and say a word, object this war in the Yemeni people. It's been 6 years and for no reason whatsoever, except something that politicians want, which is oil and gas and wealth. That's all it is. Politicians, human as us human, you and I and her and there, are brothers. Our brothers are human. We should stand by each other. Why should we die? Why should people from Africa, from Yemen, from UK, from USA, from poor people should die? Why? There's no reason to justify this, except those politicians who can stop them. We should get out and make a march, and after march, and we really object their decision, and we have to stop the war. Now, as part of the starvation issue and the hunger, these children's men and women are are in great starvation. Yesterday, just a couple of days ago, United Nations announced more than 80% of the Yemen population will die in 2021. But why do they have to? Why do these people have to die? These 80% of the population, why do they have to die? I'm asking the United Nations why. Yeah. So again, the simple answer, just to stop the war, and lift the blockade, the air, land, and sea blockades, and they will survive. I guarantee you they will. Now, again, as you can see, children are the most vulnerable, condition or item or victims of this war. Medical attention is not available for them. According to the OCHA, 12 million child awaiting medical supplies and to travel abroad to health complication, like the one that I'm showing you a picture of it. This just about 4 days ago, or about 5 days ago, right? There was a twin born and attached to each other. They require a delicate separation operation with appropriate equipment and fully equipped hospitals. Where would they do that? How can they separate these kids? Now how long this war will wait for these two little boys, twins born like that? Again, it's humanity. It is our message. It is our Christmas message to you as a human, to act and do something and really object. Use all media, social media, TVs, radios. Put your word. Just put your word. Oppose this war. Oppose this war. It has to stop. Enough is enough. Now, I'm not going to run through all this. It's too much. But because it's just heartbreaking. 233,000 people die in a new United Nations estimate. This is just the estimate of the United Nations, which is a lot less than the actual ones. The actual ones, I've already read it out for you. I'm reading the OCHA figures for you, which is confirmed by the United Nations. 24.3 million people will need humanitarian assistance immediately, as soon as possible. Well, I mean, I am speechless. What more can I say to you? Would you accept this to be implied to ruin your Christmas and a New Year? Just imagine of it. You are in your home and a bomb or a Saudi or Americans or something, they come and bomb your home and you are peacefully living inside your home. What more can you do? Now, it's not only that. If you are in the Western society are struggling and screaming out of COVID-19 and the blockade that causing their lifestyle disturbance, what do you think about these people who are in the underworld and also COVID-19 addition to their condition? It makes it even worse. And there are thousands of people, again, countless, and they cannot count it to see how many people they go to the grave just because the COVID-19, and they don't have even the simplest inhalers, oxygen. It's the oxygen hospital, and the oxygens in hospital have been destroyed. Factories for making the oxygen to hospital have been bombed. Why would you want to do that? This is genocide. This is a criminal. This is a crime against war. And again, this is a crime against humanity. And it is a war crime. And these people who are attacking the innocent people, wherever it is, they will be condemned. And one day they will take their punishment and the judgment will take place. Right. Let me go through this here again very quickly to show you the hunger. And the blue, the light blue, it means men and women direct killing by bombing. Each year has a figure in it. 2016, 2017. You can see the figures are increasing amongst. In 2015, there were casualties between children and men and women with the direct killing. Now, the year after, hunger and sickness, deaths start occurring and happening with a big portion of people. Now you can see it's very clear showing the graphs that if you follow from 2015, 2016, 2017, also further back in 2018, 2019, and last year, this year, 2020, there has been 280,000 people are men and women, right? Men and women, direct killing by bombing, by rockets and all that. There are children, about 120,000 child killed by bombs as well. And there are the people who are killed as a result of hunger and sickness are reaching 80,000 people. It is incredible. These figures never reach the whole world. Now, from the United Nations, again, I'm giving you this information from the United Nations websites, and they're convincing, and that the Yemen is going to enter a huge and aggressive famine in 2021. That is next year. We're talking about next year. Famine like the ones that happened in France back in the early, before the World War, and also in Ireland. You don't need me to remind you about the famine happened in Ireland and killed most of them, all migrated to America afterwards. Now famine happened in Africa. Now this famine is a huge famine is coming due to the lack of supply of medicines and everything, and the food, the basic foods, the basic access to the hospitals, welfare, schools. Are no schools destroyed, everything in there, understand? So now the final message is just we're asking you to stop the war. Stop the war. This is our Christmas message to you, public, and we are really trying to tell everyone to have a bit of a heart and really be show your sympathy and act as a result. Right on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Share this message. Speak up. Talk. Tell the politicians to stop eating the people's wealth and to kill everybody, even children, with no mercy, for the sake you get dollars in your pockets. Now, here this is my last slide, which would like to announce that we would invite you as normal being a human. I'm talking to you as you are human, the same as me, as everybody, as John, as Jonathan and Sean, and we are all the same. And we are inviting you to come and to show your solidarity and affection towards the suffering people of Yemen. Yes, and to come and we're inviting you to attend our global day of action. We are coming out to march in London to go and to raise our hand, and we are required to stop the war and lift the blockades on airports, sea and land. And we are hoping that you attend, and we will continue organizing this. If anybody wants to contact us, they can use our phones, emails, and our organization website that is stated at the bottom there of the slides. And this Global Act Day means that there will be people participating in Germany, Canada, USA, and many places, many other places. We will all go out on that day. So pay attention and do your turn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammed. That was very detailed analysis and very informative speech you have given there. And we very much appreciate your effort and hard work in inviting people to the Global Day of Action January next year. And we are hoping that as many people as possible will join in, and at least even by holding any local event in their own local towns, even in a small village, that would be very helpful, which can then be posted in the social network for people to see about the little activities that you have carried out in your own places, however remote you might be or disconnected from the world. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohammed. That was very helpful. Our next speaker is Mr. Mohammed Al-Zubaydi, all the way from New York. Mr. Al-Zubaydi is also a member of Human Rights for Yemen organization. He is the branch office manager in New York. Mr. Zubaydi is a political analyst, human rights campaigner, and a representative for the international campaign against the closure of the airport of Sana'a. And he will tell us about the dire humanitarian impact of the closure of the airport of Sana'a. By the way, as a lawyer, I can tell you that there is no legal basis for closing the airport of Sana'a whatsoever. I have checked and double-checked the law on this. In fact, it amounts to a very, very serious violation of the sovereignty of the state of Yemen. Over to you, Brother Mohammed Al-Zubaydi. Tell us about the closure of the airport and its impact on the people of Yemen.
Thank you, Ms. Kim, and hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for having me here. And today is going to be a Christmas message as well, sent into the whole world. And it's going to be most likely a result about the siege of Sana'a airport and the result of the siege of the war suffocating of Saudi Arabia war crime in Yemen. So Sana'a International Airport has been closed since August 2016 by the Saudi Emirati Airlines, and that has been lowering the war in Yemen for 6 years. And the closure of Sana'a International Airport has caused the death of 80,000 patients who could not travel to receive treatment outside Yemen. And there's more than 500,000 patients need to travel outside Yemen to receive treatment in multiple countries after the collapse of health situation and hospital in Yemen. So Sana'a Civil Airport also is the only outlet for more than 20 million people that live in 12 cities and representing more than 80% of the Yemeni population. And they are in dire need of civilian flight and medical to alleviate the scale of humanitarian disaster against civilians, whose blockade also is in a violation of international agreements, including the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and international laws on civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights and freedoms. Well, civilians in Yemen right now, they hope to open Sana'a International Airport after 5 years of siege. Well, the Saudi regime has turned their country into a prison, threatening more than 100,000 patients with the cancerous tumors that have spread among children and women, where there are more than 8 million Yemenis in their need of treatment and food assistance with that rate of health and economic. Sana'a International Airport, as we know, it doesn't pose any threat to any party, except that the closure of Sana'a International Airport and the suspension of civilian flight has double hardship of travel for patients by reaching Sayoun Airport, which is about 2,000 kilometers from Sana'a city. Whereas the recording of the UN report, the continued closure of Sana'a International Airport to civilian flight falls with the framework of systematic war crimes and the genocidal war committed by the Saudi Arabia against the civilians in Yemen. And our presence here today is in order to send a message to the whole world, saying the situation is very painful. You might not be able to imagine the scale of the humanitarian situation in Yemen. Just close your eyes for a moment and you will see how Syria warplanes destroy the schools and hospitals and kills women and children, and that's where they have destroyed all aspects of life in Yemen. And finally, and before we conclude this message and this meeting, I hope that an ensure of a lunch from your circles, defense of the press Yemeni people and the humanity that's been killed in Yemen for 6 years by demanding the lift of the siege on the Yemeni people. And again, thank you for everybody here. Thank you for having me here with you guys. And I hope this message is going to reach the most people in this world.
Thank you very much, Brother Mohammed. That was very helpful indeed. And I am hoping that, the points that you have made in your speech is very, very important for people to note about the impact of closing the Sana'a airport. We very much appreciate your continued hard work and your brilliant speech. Thank you very much, Brother Mohammed. Our next guest speaker is having slight technical problems, so we're going to put his speech to a later time in the hope that he may be able to access the room at one point. And instead, we're going to move over to the fifth speaker. The fifth speaker is a member of the Human Rights for Yemen organization. He is a businessman and he's also a political activist from Yemen. Originally, but based in the UK at the moment. He's going to tell us about the role of the UN and its agencies in worsening the humanitarian catastrophe. Over to you, Brother Nabil Al-Hakim.
Thank you, Kulthum. Yes, thank you, Kulthum. Thank you for invitations. Mr. Mohammed Al-Khadimi is covering everything, but I will speak about some points. I will talk about the United Nations and the international organization and their role in the Yemeni crisis. Unfortunately, their role is not well in Yemen, but so bad. But the United Nations is no longer as sponsor of base, but a sponsor to the war. This is the truth, unfortunately. International resolutions 2216 did not give the right to anyone to entrave military in Yemen. The United Nations provides covering for this aggression against Yemen. We are facing the biggest crime, siege and famine in history. The happening is the deliberate starvation of Yemeni people. Who give them this right? Yes, there is war in Syria, Libya, but the airports and seaports is open. Why in Yemen? Because we have the bad neighbor, the Saudi regime fight us and say killing and starvation. Yes, the problem now that the world silent and just watching silently. This is the ugly world. Saudi money silenced them. Yes, this is a defect of and shame against humanity. Saudi Arabia has spent more than $1 trillion on this war, while the community of nations, the community of nations provided to Yemen only a few billions for humanitarian aid. Via the World Food Programme's WFP, just giving the Yemenis poor and the Yemenis food, about the food baskets. The food baskets continues 3 liters cooking oil and about 10 kilograms sugar and rice and about 25 kilograms flour. This basket is just twice a year for every family. We have now the problem, the Yemenis don't have any food, medicine. The biggest problem, the Yemenis hospitals, they needed the medicine, medical supplies, and fuel. That, we know that. Remember that the cholera spread during the 2016 to 2018, but no real cooperation happened. As well, coronavirus pandemic, the Yemenis didn't getting or any help. Oil shipments are not permitted to enter the ports. Factory, there is always a fuel crisis. Factories and companies and hospitals are stopped working for the all places in Yemen, maybe in Sana'a, Hodeidah, and other places. Unfortunately, the decision to stop the war is not in the hands of the Yemenis. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Nabil. That's really helpful, what you have told us about the UN agencies and how little, if at all, the work they are doing and the position taken by them in relation to this worst man-made humanitarian catastrophe. Our next speaker is a young lady, a youth, who has had the misfortune of experiencing the catastrophe firsthand in Yemen for a period of about a year. She's a 12-year-old young lady, Afnan Al-Hakim, daughter of Nabil, our previous speaker. She's going to tell us about the youth perspective on the humanitarian situation. Over to you, Afnan.
Hello, my name is Afnan Al-Hakim, and today I'll be talking about the worst humanitarian case in over 100 years, which is happening right now in Yemen. The war has been continuing on from 2015 to now, which is 6 years. During the war, I was 7 years old before I came to it. I would like to talk about children. Many children were not able to go to schools, and that resulted for no education to children, which is a huge deal for their future and their jobs and their families and how they're going to provide for their families. The children would have to go to their basement to hide from the war, because the houses were not safe enough, because the bullets would come through I remember the bullets coming through the windows, so we had to go to the basements where there was sometimes cockroaches, rats, and we had to stay there overnight because that was the only safe route to stay protected. There was bombing every day. We could not sleep. There was bullets on the streets and around houses. Children were mentally and physically affected. There was no food, so starvation. And children had to move from house to house to house because they could not stay in a protected house. 47% of Yemen are living in poverty, which means more starvation. Innocent families were bombed in their sleep because Saudi Arabia would send rockets down anywhere randomly, and that would cause families to be bombed, even if they had not effect in the war or nothing, and they were not even soldiers. People wanted to run away, but they had no options because sadly the airports were closed, and mothers and fathers were carrying their dead children in their hands on the streets as they had died from starvation. People not able to travel for illness such as cholera and cancer, etc. There was no medicines or food shipped to Yemen. People who were in a crisis, and people were not able to escape. The markets had to make the food more expensive, and the food more expensive because of the economy. There were people losing their jobs, and therefore they had to increase the prices to gain more money to feed their family. And people did not have enough money as they were not able to go to jobs, and therefore they could not feed their families. 20 million people in Yemen are not fed food, and the children became so skinny and frail that you can see their bones. Every 10 seconds, a child dies in Yemen because of starvation. I remember my aunt's house was bombed by rocket while she was in Canada, and luckily she was able to survive. But most of my family are in Yemen, and so they still have a high chance of high-risk death. Soldier people don't only target soldiers, but the people, which is completely wrong. There was also the Aban mountain, which was bombed by the Saudi Arabia because there were many weapons there, and so if they bombed it, there would be less weapons for the Yemeni people. And I remember the ground was shaking, there was an earthquake, and they bombed it, and my house was near the mountain, and my sister fainted, and then many glass was shattered, and many people died. Everyone was afraid to step out, and there was stench of blood everywhere, bullets everywhere. Diseases, there was bad diseases and expired food everywhere, and people were not able to feed themselves. How can a child experience such thing? Saudi Arabia could not think of the stupid consequences because there was such a huge country and Yemen such a small country, and therefore children were risking their life. And the children were not able to, they would just die in the streets. They would have to live in tents because they did not have houses, and their family could not buy them houses, and therefore they would live in the tents where they would be in danger, and they had no houses and no food. And then that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, young lady. Most eloquently expressed and most fluidly explained the pain and suffering of the people of Yemen from a child's perspective. I'm very moved by your speech. Thank you very much. I very much understand the trauma that you may have gone through as a child yourself, and you may still be having to manage this, and we wish you all the best for the future. And thank you so much for sharing all this with us.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now waited long enough for our fourth speaker about the media and its impact, and it looks like he's still having technical problems. So I will briefly say to you that the media is actually aiding and abetting, albeit perhaps indirectly, the continuation of the suffering because of its use of really wrongful, misleading terminology about describing what's really happening in Yemen, meaning, in other words, political pandering and trying to please the person with a bigger purse, namely the Saudi-led coalition, and underplaying and downplaying the extent of the suffering in Yemen, and quite often speaking of the war, of the conflict in Yemen as a civil war. Well, okay, I mean, how many civil wars were there in the world where there was 17 countries collaborating to bomb one country to smithereen? You tell me, when was that such a civil war in the world? I have never witnessed a civil war of that kind. This is clearly an aggression. and the media pandering to Saudi-led coalition narrative as a political expediency, which is very harmful to the people of Yemen. Oh, thank you, Brother Mohammed. I'm glad you've arrived. You are supposed to be speaking to us about the media. Please do go ahead. I have said a couple of words, and I'm sure you will say a lot more stuff. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today. It's an honor to be with you. Greeting to all the participants in the meeting. Today, I will talk to you about the role of the media in the Yemen crisis in general. And in particular, the humanitarian aspects of it. In fact, the information that circulates to the Arab and international media about the political, military, and humanitarian situation in Yemen is very much distorted. And the reason for that is that those in control of the media in general are parties involved in the Yemen crisis, either directly or indirectly, or are financially benefiting from the war through arms deals and logistical facilities provided to Saudi Arabia, aiding it in its aggression against Yemen, against the Yemeni people. The role of the media was generally negative, as it denied the fact that there was a revolution in Yemen, where the media used to describe the revolution as a coup, because the word revolution is a word that indicates that it's caused by the will of the Yemeni people. And therefore, the revolution and its demands must have been respected by the world, which doesn't benefit the Saudi narrative of this war. This is why word coup is used, as it connotes violence and breach of vows, and thus it is a hated term that doesn't find sympathy from anyone. And from there, the crime began. Saudi Arabia launched its aggression against Yemen to eliminate the demands of the revolutionaries and to impose its plan to install a puppet government in Yemen, which would not oppose their evil intentions. This aggression resulted in war crimes, killings, and destructions being committed on a large scale with the aim of achieving results quickly, but it failed to do so. And here came the role of the complicit media, which made matters worse through the following points. The first point, it helped spread the Saudi version of the events without taking into consideration the opinions of the revolutionaries. The second point, it concealed many of Saudi Arabia crimes, showing only a small part of them, and did not shed any light on the crime of sieging Yemen, which caused the death of tens of thousands of people. The third point, the media in the West, for example, doesn't shed enough light on the war in Yemen, even though the United Nations says that this humanitarian situation is the worst in the world. The reliance of the global media on the Saudi version of events reduces international sympathy with the people because it describes the revolutionaries as Iranian agents and rebels. The fifth point, statistics adopted by international organizations are much less than reality as a result of the media's failure to play its true role. Therefore, through seminars like this, we are trying to raise awareness among people, organizations, and governments to stop supporting the Saudi regime and its major crime in Yemen. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Brother Ahmed. That was really helpful, very important for the world to be alert to these points that you have made. Very, very significant. I'm grateful that you've made it through after some struggle with technicalities, and here we are. We're now coming to the wrapping up of the event, and I will say, first of all, thank you so much all for your hard work, for making this event happen, firstly, and secondly, for its hopeful success. For its success. I would like to thank you all individually for your good work. For our brothers from New York and from Indiana, our sister Rhonda, and our brothers here in London, and all those who have joined us today to give us some technical support. I will wrap it up by saying that human rights for Yemen message for Christmas is, please enjoy your seasons, holidays, and in the comfort of your home, but do not forget the people of Yemen who are starving as they are, as we are speaking. And at the very least, please make effort to donate to our organizations, because we need to set up our organization officially. We need costs of admin work, we need equipments, and we are very good at carrying out aid work to parts that not ordinary agencies can reach because of our Yemeni connection. We have doctors, nurses, and journalists and lawyers working with us, carrying out voluntary aid distribution work for us free of charge. We have a wealth of about 6 years experience, and we would like you to be donating to our organization so that we can continue doing our work. Up to now, we have been unfunded by anybody. We are self-funded. We are funding from our own pockets all the work that we have been doing. But now the situation has gone so bad that we need your help, fellow humans. Donate generously. And I'm going to give you the email address for our PayPal donation for the time being until our formal registration early next year. The email address is saswaw@gmail.com. I repeat, Sierra Alpha Sierra Whiskey Alpha Whiskey @gmail.com. Please get in touch and donate generously, and we are hoping to register formally. And if you have any questions or any inquiries, please do not hesitate to contact us via our website and the numbers provided. And we do very much hope to hear from you. This aggression must stop. And by way of a quick reminder, I will say that we are all humans, either brothers in faith or brothers in humanity. I am reaching out to you, to my fellow English speakers, my brothers in humanity, to hear our cries, to hear the cries of Afnan today. She's just one of millions of children who are going through this. Please come out, do something on the 25th of January to join the Global Day of Action for Yemen to alleviate the suffering of the people of Yemen. Thank you very much. And that brings us to the end of our event. Thank you.